Hello everybody, my name is Neil Graham and I am the Director of Coaching of the recreational programme within Phoenix Rising Youth Soccer Club here in Scottsdale. So first of all, if you're watching this video, massive thank you to you for stepping up this season to coach your kids' team. Our fall and spring recreational leagues are massively dependent upon volunteer coaches like yourselves stepping up every year, so we're hugely appreciative and grateful for you doing so. Typically we get a lot of returning coaches every season, and many of our coaches have been coaching for 5, 6, 7 years, which is fantastic, but we also always get an influx of new coaches, particularly at the younger age groups, every season. So part of this video presentation is going to be a welcome and introduction to the club for those new coaches, and then there'll also be part of it that's a bit more kind of guidance on coaching and any help that we can offer to you. So for those new coaches to the club, really briefly, quick history. The club itself was formed in 1981. It was originally called Arcadia Scottsdale United Soccer Club and successfully grew over many years in the 80s and 90s. At some point in the early 2000s it became Scottsdale Soccer Club, and then somewhat more recently we merged with the professional club Phoenix Rising and we became their youth arm, and we're now Phoenix Rising Youth Soccer Club. On the recreational side here in Scottsdale, we typically have around about 3,000 kids come through all our programs throughout the course of the year. The fall season is typically a larger program because it's preschool through high school versus the spring's preschool through 6th grade. So the fall is normally 2,500 kids. The spring season is normally 1,500. On any given Saturday, there's ballpark 100, 120 games going on, recreational games going on. So that gives you an idea of the size of the club. It's pretty big. It's one of the biggest in the state, which we're very proud of. But hopefully that gives you a bit of perspective there. There's the competitive club arm as well, which the hub for that is here in Scottsdale. We've got, I think, close to 2,000 kids playing competitive club soccer, and then we have a number of branches around town and elsewhere in the state. Throw in those kids as well, and between competitive and rec we're looking at about 6,000 kids, probably very rough ballpark as things stand, of children playing soccer in the club, which is fantastic, and as I say, hopefully gives you a little sense of the size of the organisation and what have you. There are a number of coaches, myself included. There's a team of us that are full-time professional coaches employed by the club to run the club. We all coach competitive club teams and we all wear numerous other hats too. One of my hats is overseeing the recreational program, for example, hence why I'm talking to you right now. So we spend a huge amount of time trying to make sure we are staying up to speed with the best practices involved in coaching youth soccer. And you know, a few years ago now, we decided to really focus in on our long-term development plan for all kids across all age groups, and our starting point was actually looking at our older high school teams, say juniors, seniors, and taking a look at them and saying, how do we want them to play? How do we want them to act as individuals? What is their style of play? Can people from afar look at a game and say, that's a Phoenix Rising team? I can tell by the way they play and I can tell by the way they conduct themselves. So that was our kind of starting point, and then we basically brought it all the way back down to entry level and figured out, okay, if there's our end point and that's what we want them to look like, what do we need to work on when they're 14? What do we need to work on when they're 12, 10, 8, 6, all the way down? So we apply that on the competitive club side, but all the advice that we give on the rec side ties into that, because the vast majority of our kids that are playing the competitive side all started off in rec at some point. And the competitive side isn't for everybody. Some of your kids may love soccer and get really into it, be really passionate about it, and they want to make that step at some point. And others may not. Others may just want to play for a few years, or they may just want to play rec the entire time. There's no right or wrong, But the main thing is we want to make sure that there is an option for kids to play soccer at all levels and all ages within our club and have a really positive experience doing so. So that's the real simple mission that we have. As I say, from a rec side of things, we're super grateful for all the volunteers who help every year, and we are here to provide you with as much help or as little as you need. So please, at any point, if you need any help with anything, don't hesitate to reach out. So we'll go through some real basics in soccer here, because some of you, I'm sure, have played at a pretty decent level. Some of you maybe played high school, some maybe played college. Some of you, sometimes we get rec coaches who've maybe even played pro. Some of you may not have played at all. That's fine. To coach kids at this age, you really don't need to know that much about soccer at all. So we'll take you through the basics here. I think for me, the biggest thing about soccer is it's a bit different from the traditional American sports, whether that be baseball, football, basketball, which are very coach-orientated games during an actual game. The coaches are heavily involved in calling plays, timeouts, drawing up plays. Players know exactly where to go or make runs based on what the coach has told them. Soccer's not like that. Soccer, once you get to high school age, is all about reading the game, anticipation, trying to figure out what's going to happen next, reacting to things. So it's there's no time to react to sideline instructions once you get to that sort of high school age group. By the time you comprehend a sideline instruction, the moment is most likely past. So we have to keep that in mind when we're coaching these younger kids, because it's super easy at 5, 6 years old. The speed of play is so much slower that you could literally joystick your players through every game and tell them exactly what to do at any given time whenever they have the ball. Hey, Johnny, pass to David. Johnny's going to pass to David. Hey, David, take a shot. David takes a shot. And you could, as I say, joystick your team through that and tell them what to do all the time. And probably that might result in you winning more games than if you didn't do that. But the challenge we've got is if you coach your teams like that as they grow, when they're younger, we're basically creating very robotic players who never make decisions for themselves. They just do what they're told. And those players then become lost when they get to high school because they've never practiced making decisions, anticipating things, reading the game themselves, because they've been so dependent upon mum or dad telling them exactly what to do all the time. So I think when they're real young, yes, they do need some instruction, of course they do, but at the same time, don't be scared to let them make mistakes. Let them figure things out themselves. Let them learn valuable lessons from doing that. That's part of learning to become a smart soccer player who can read and anticipate the game. So getting a balance of that, I think, is key. For the new coaches out there, real simple stuff, hopefully common sense stuff. Arrive at your session nice and early, get your cones out, get set up, make it look the part, dress like a coach, at least look like you know what you're doing. That'll help you a lot. And then if you can just bring a great personality, lots of energy, high fives, lots of enthusiasm, lots of positivity, get those kids buzzing from the second they arrive, and they don't want practice to end, then regardless of score lines, you've done a great job. In terms of defining success at a recreational soccer level, again, I think we need to have some good perspective here, because often when we chat to rec coaches, say, how's your season going? The only thing they tell you is their wins and loss record, which is fine. Obviously, we're all trying to win. Nobody likes losing. But the challenge you've got is at this level, if you've got 1 or 2 really athletic kids on your team, particularly when you're playing 4v4, you'll probably win most of, if not all of your games because of those players, because they just dominate. Likewise, if you don't have any particularly athletic kids on your team, you may well lose every game. Doesn't mean your team sucks or you as a coach suck. Doesn't mean that at all. It's just the cards you've been dealt, and it doesn't matter how good or bad a coach you are. It just is what it is. So, if you've not been dealt the best set of cards, how do you ensure a positive, enjoyable, successful season? There's a bunch of other stuff that we should focus on rather than just results. there's all the great life lessons that we can teach the kids: never quitting, never giving up, maximum effort, every practice, every game, sportsmanship. What when things are not going your way? How do you act? How do you conduct yourself? Respect towards other team and the officials. All those kinds of things are great lessons and more important than any wins or losses to teach these young children. So a big part of your focus as coach should be a role model and teaching them those things. Then we're talking about other things like, did every kid in your team get an opportunity to play a different position at some point during the season? Things like that. If you or does the same kid get stuck in goals every game and he or she hates it, but coach just makes them play there? I think all those kind of things are a more important barometer of what is success at this level. So try not to get caught up or too caught up in the wins and losses. Keep in mind, when that final whistle goes, the kids have forgotten the result already. They're more interested in cookies and ice cream, and we as adults lie in our bed at night, spinning our wheels, thinking what we could have done, what we should have done. So perspective is key, and keeping in mind how old these kids are and what level of soccer they are that's playing. So some thoughts there for you. Within that, we always strongly suggest that each coach at the start of the season comes up, has a think about what their coaching philosophy is, and then they have some form of parent meeting, maybe at the start of the first practice, and they go through that with their parents so that everybody's on the same page from the get-go, and you've set the expectations early, and there's nothing that can come back midway through the season and cause you any issues. As an example, if you address something like playing, how you're going to deal with playing time to your parents at the start of the season, very helpful, because what if little Johnny never comes to practice but then turns up to games and his parents have an expectation that he plays the same amount of time as everybody else? Is that fair when he never comes to practice? If you weren't upfront about that at the start, then maybe you've got a little problem on your hands there. So things to think about, talk with your parents about. As I say, make sure the expectations are set out at the start of the season, and then that'll stand you in pretty good shape. So strongly recommend you have a think about doing that, and if it helps you any, or gives you ideas rather, these values up here are what we use on the competitive club side. We developed those a few years ago, when we were talking about what sort of culture do we want to create amongst all of our teams, what do we want the pillars of that culture to be. And we came up with these 6 core values, and we spend a lot of time talking with the kids about these core values, what they mean to us as individuals, what they mean to us as a team, and how they apply to life in general. So again, it's all bigger picture stuff and more life lessons. We can have a huge impact on the kids we coach by talking about these kinds of things. This is a spiel that this will be sent. This presentation will be emailed out to you in a PDF, so you can read through it, take your time, read it in detail. But these are some great bullet points that will help you be successful as well. The next couple of slides talk about how we kind of start off playing 3v3 at preschool, then they play 4v4 kindergarten, first grade, second grade, and third and fourth grade is 7v7, fifth grade and older is 9v9, and then obviously the adult version of the game is 11v11. This spiel up here, which you can read in your own time, talks about the benefits of the small-sided games like the 4v4, and it's hugely important for the kids' development to play in these small-sided games in terms of the amount of times they touch the ball, how often they're involved in the game, how often they have to make decisions in the game. It's considerably more playing 4v4 than it would be if they were playing 11v11, where if we ludicrously had 7-year-olds playing at 11v11, several 7-year-olds could go 10 minutes of the game and never touch the ball and never really be involved. So how are they going to get better at the game if they're not practicing and not involved? So a lot of rec coaches often are in a little bit of a hurry to get to the real game with bigger field goals, goalkeepers. I would urge you to resist that temptation and consider these building blocks are there for a good reason. And any club worth their salt in this country is doing the same thing. It's guidance given by the US Soccer Federation, and any country in the world that has got a well-reputed grassroots youth system, they all do this. They all start at 4v4. So let's not try to run before we can walk. 4v4 is vital to get those kids comfortable on the ball, getting a good technique, and there's plenty of time down the road to worry about tactics and the getting closer to the adult version of the game. The next slide here talks about what the focuses should be at each age group. Obviously, preschool, kindergarten, it's just an introduction to the sport. Have fun. Don't, if you kick it in the wrong goal by mistake, don't worry about it. It's going to happen. Have a laugh. This is where the seed is planted with the kids in terms of falling in love with the game or not. 4v4, the emphasis is massively on technique and practicing technique and repetition and being comfortable on the ball. Then as we get older and get into 7v7, 9v9, then we start to think more about team formations, playing as a team, passing, possessing the ball, goalkeepers, throw-ins, all those things gradually come in as they get older. So these are the building blocks of it, and it's, as I say, it's a progression that we have looked at from here all the way up through to high school, and we know that this works, so we would urge you to understand and buy into this process as well. Any help that you need at any point in the season, please reach out. And if you don't need help, that's fine, more power to you, go for it, have fun, have a blast. But if you do need help, reach out. We've got a bunch of lesson plans, videos that we can send you, give you any kind of coaching ideas on any kind of topic. There's online certifications you can do that are fantastic. We can recommend those to you. And what a lot of rec coaches like to do is ask one of our professional coaches to come out and do a session with their team to give them some ideas. If you'd like to do that, please let us know, and we'll send one of the coaches out, and they will coach your team in a practice session with you alongside them, and they'll talk you through what they're doing, why they're doing it, how they would progress it, what they might do the next session, that kind of thing, and give you some assistance. Other recreational programs that you may want to be aware of for either your child or maybe other kids on your team, obviously we've got the spring and rec leagues, but other programs we have running in between them. In the fall season, for example, we do skills clinics on Sunday afternoons that our pro coaches lead those, and the kids can come out and we just focus entirely on technical skills. And those are free for your kids, the volunteer coaches, and then other kids have a nominal fee to pay to do that. We have an all-star program which runs in between the fall and spring season, which is basically a bridge program between rec and competitive, and it's a 2-month taste of what the competitive club world looks like. And we form those teams at under 7s, under 8s, under 9s, under 10s, the same way that we do our competitive teams. There's a tryout, and the best players make the team, and some may not make the team. And then those kids go off, they get a professional coach, and they get a 2-month taste of it, and maybe they decide they want to go the competitive club route, or maybe they think, hey, that was fun, but I want to go back and play on my rec team next season. Either one is fine. Over the winter as well, we run this program called Rising Stars, which is pretty popular, and it's run by our pro staff. Friday night we work on skills, Sunday afternoon we play small-sided games. So for those kids who finish the fall season and don't want to stop playing soccer and keep playing, they can do that, and then that flows nicely into the Spring Rec League. Soccer 6 is there, runs at the same time as the Spring Rec League, but it's for older kids, for roughly 12, 13 years old and older, and that's an opportunity for them to keep playing. So, as I say, please look through the document we send you. Obviously, you've got to this point in the video, you've listened to me. If you've got any questions, please reach out. But essentially, we'd urge you to keep a great sense of perspective, have as much fun as you can. If we can teach all of these athletes to be respectful, demonstrate good sportsmanship, and work as hard as they can, never quit, and learn a little bit about soccer, get a little bit better as they go through the season, then I think everybody's done a great job. And you know, if you enjoy yourself and try to be as positive a role model to all children as you can, then I think that it's going to do huge things for our club and all the children involved in it, which is what it's all about. So thank you again for stepping up to coach. We look forward to seeing you out in the fields, and we're here to help if you need it. Thank you.